The mystery continues. Amina has now confirmed that her husband is not just rich, but a ghost living among men. Strange dreams haunt his family in Nigeria, and now a new woman has stepped in to stop their travel.
You cannot travel yet. There is something unfinished in this land that must be resolved before you leave.
What does this mean? Watch closely, subscribe, and share the story so you don't miss the unbelievable ending. That night, Amina sat by the window, staring at Chika as he played with their children. The laughter in the house felt normal, but deep within her, she trembled. She had confirmed it with her own eyes. Her husband was a ghost. Her heart battled between love and fear. How could she confront the man who gave her so much happiness yet carried such a terrifying secret? She thought of Mzee Juma's words,
I need you to understand the importance of this decision,
and knew she could not remain silent forever. Meanwhile, in Anambra, far away in Nigeria, Chika's mother tossed on her bed. She had just woken from a dream where her son, who was supposed to be dead, appeared before her holding 3 children. She sat up sweating, her hands trembling as she reached for her wrapper. The dream had been so vivid that she could even hear the children's laughter echoing in her ears. At that very moment, in a different part of the same town, Chika's sister Ngozi woke up screaming. Her dream was exactly the same, her brother holding 3 children and smiling as if he never died. The next morning, Ngozi hurried to her mother's hut. She was still shaking when she said, Mama, something strange happened to me last night. I dreamt of Chika. Her mother froze, her eyes widening. Ngozi, I too saw him. And not just him, I saw 3 children by his side. Ngozi fell to her knees, her voice breaking. Mama, what does it mean? Chika is dead. How then can we both see him alive with children? Her mother shook her head slowly, her face pale. I do not know, my daughter. But one thing is certain, this is not an ordinary dream. Back in Tanzania, Amina lay awake, the image of her husband in the cemetery still haunting her. The weight of the truth pressed down on her chest. Chika was not who she thought he was, and yet she still loved him. That morning, Amina dressed the children for school, her smile wide but her heart restless. Every time Chika's shadow passed before her eyes, she wondered if it was really him, or just the ghostly truth she now knew. At breakfast, Chika leaned over and kissed her forehead. My love, you look worried. Is something troubling you? His voice was calm, but Amina swore she saw a flicker of darkness cross his eyes. She forced a laugh, shaking her head. No, my dear, I am only tired. Yet, deep down, she wanted to scream and ask, who are you really, Chika? Back in Anambra, Chika's mother could not let the dream rest. She took a long walk to the shrine of a village elder, hoping to seek answers. But halfway there, she froze. Someone was following her. She turned quickly, but the street was empty, only dust rising in the morning sun. Still, the feeling of being watched refused to leave her. Her skin prickled with fear. That same day, Ngozi confided in her closest friend about the dream. The friend's face went pale as she whispered, Ngozi, such dreams are warnings. If your brother holds children, maybe he is calling them to the land of the dead. Ngozi's heart dropped. No, it cannot be. He looked happy. He was alive. But even as she spoke, doubt clouded her mind. That night in Tanzania, Amina thought she heard whispers in the children's room. She rushed in, only to find them asleep. But when she touched her daughter Adana's hand, it felt strangely cold, as though she had been touched by something unseen. Amina's body shook with fear. She tiptoed back to her room, her thoughts racing. Could Chika's world be pulling my children into it? As she lay awake beside her husband, she wondered how long she could keep up the pretense, and whether confronting him would save her family or destroy it forever. That night, after Amina finally drifted into a troubled sleep, Chika quietly slipped out of the house. The moonlight followed him as he made his way to the graveyard, his usual place of communion with the unseen. He stood before the ancient tombstone, whispering the chants only spirits could understand. But tonight something unusual happened. The guardian of the grave appeared, his face dark and stern. Chika, The guardian's voice echoed like thunder. Your secret is no longer hidden. Your wife, Amina, knows that you are not among the living. Chika's eyes widened, his body trembling. No, it cannot be. She loves me too much to believe such a thing. Who told her? The guardian's hollow eyes glowed red. Do not be deceived. She has seen with her own eyes, and she has spoken to one who can see the truth. The seed of suspicion grows inside her heart. Chika clenched his fists, anger and fear colliding within him. How did she find out? I have been careful. I have hidden my truth. How could she possibly know? The guardian's shadowy face tilted as if studying him. Twice she has trailed you here, to this place of spirits. She walked silently, watching from the darkness. He did not notice, but she saw. She has carried the burden of that knowledge in her heart. A shock ran through Chika. He thought back to the sudden change in Amina, her distant stares, her heavy silences, her questions that seemed to reach deeper than words. So, no wonder she has been moody, he muttered, his voice breaking. If she knows the truth, then everything I have built will crumble. My children, my wealth, my home with her. The guardian stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that chilled the night. You must decide, Chika. Reveal yourself to her, or lose her forever. A woman who lives with fear cannot be bound to a spirit. Chika's heart pounded like a drum. He fell to his knees, torn between two worlds. The world of the dead that claimed him, and the world of the living that he longed to keep. Meanwhile, back in their home, Amina stirred in her sleep. Her dreams were filled with shadows, and she thought she heard a voice whisper, "He knows you know." She woke suddenly, drenched in sweat, her heart racing. The bed beside her was empty, and for the first time, she wondered if her silence was keeping her safe or slowly destroying her. That night, while Amina lay asleep, she slipped into a strange dream. In the dream, she saw her late mother standing under a dim light, her eyes filled with sorrow. Her mother's voice echoed softly, "My daughter, there are secrets that are better left unsaid. Whatever you have known, choose your battles wisely." Amina stretched out her hand to hold her mother, but before she could touch her, the image faded into darkness. She jolted awake, her heart racing, her forehead covered in sweat. The words of her mother still rang in her ears, "Choose your battles wisely." Immediately, she looked beside her on the bed and noticed Chika was not there. The sheets were cold, showing he had left a long while ago. Amina closed her eyes in pain and whispered, "I already know where you have gone, Chika." She rose from the bed quietly, wrapped herself in a shawl, and peered through the window. The night was still and heavy, the silence almost pressing against her chest. Deep down, she knew he had gone again to the cemetery. Meanwhile, Chika was still in the cemetery talking to the guardian, and he said, "What should I do then?" Chika asked, desperation leaking into his tone. "She is my wife. She has stood by me even in confusion. Should I confess? Should I disappear?" The guardian's voice lowered, each word heavy with command. "Take her back to Nigeria. Your ties here are broken. The spirits no longer welcome you to linger. She must be led back to your family. That is where her answers lie." Chika bowed his head, torn between fear and love. If he obeyed, the truth of his existence would unravel faster. If he refused, the wrath of the grave would fall upon him. The thought of Amina, broken yet strong, pierced his ghostly chest. He whispered, "Nigeria, my family. Amina deserves the truth." The next morning, Amina awoke with a strange heaviness in her chest. Chika sat by the window, his face unreadable as the golden rays of dawn brushed against his skin. His silence was louder than words, and for the first time, Amina felt a chill just looking at him. He turned slowly, his eyes fixed on her with a mix of longing and sorrow. "Amina," he said softly, "I've been thinking, it's time we return to Nigeria." Her heart skipped. Those words were like a dagger. She remembered the guardian's whisper she had overheard when she followed him, the command that he should take her back. A shiver ran down her spine. "So it's true. He knows I know." Forcing a calm smile, Amina replied, "Nigeria? After all these years here? Why so suddenly, Chika?" Her voice trembled despite her effort to sound steady. Chika avoided her gaze. This land no longer welcomes us, he said vaguely. There are forces here that do not want me lingering. Your safety and the children's safety must come first. Amina's hands clenched the bedsheet. He speaks like a man caught between worlds, she thought. But she dared not confront him, not yet. She needed more courage and more certainty. Very well, she said at last, her tone measured. But what awaits us in Nigeria? You've never spoken much of your family. What if they do not accept me? Or the children? For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then Chika whispered, almost to himself, they will accept you, because they already know of you. My mother and my sister, they saw you. They saw the children. In their dreams, they saw me holding them. Amina's breath caught. The dream. She remembered how Chika had spoken of his family in fragments, but never deeply. Could it be true that his family had already seen us? Her mind raced, piecing the puzzle together. Her chest tightened as the reality sank deeper. I am living with a ghost. My husband is no longer alive, yet here he sits, planning our journey as though we could outrun death itself. Chika folded Amina into his arms, holding her tightly as if to imprint her warmth into his bones. I want you to know that I love you, he murmured, voice low and earnest. I never cheated on you with another woman. You were my first woman, and you will be my last. Amina felt the words like a bomb and a blade at once, comforting promises wrapped in a truth she could not fully accept. She rested her head against his chest, listening to the sound that should have been his heartbeat. For a terrible instant she thought it sounded hollow, like wind moving through an empty room. Do you mean that? She whispered, searching his face for the man she once knew. Chika kissed her hair and smiled, but she noticed his fingers were colder than they should be. His embrace was gentle, yet it carried the faint chill of the grave. Amina swallowed hard, forcing a return smile as she recalled Mzijuma's powder and warning. If she challenged him now, would he reveal anger, or would the spirits rise in his defense? Her mind raced, trust him and leave with him to Nigeria, or act and risk everything. For a moment she let herself believe him, letting the warmth of his arms steady her shaking soul. Okay, she said softly, voice steadying, we will go to Nigeria. Together. Her agreement sounded like surrender and strategy all at once. Chika's face lit with a rare, almost human joy, and he held her longer as if to memorize her shape. Yet as he looked past her shoulder toward the window, his eyes glowed faintly and distant thoughts tugged him away. Amina felt that same cold again, a whisper of two worlds rubbing against each other. Chika held Amina tightly in his arms, his eyes dark yet tender. Whatever you are thinking, whatever you have seen, it's true, he confessed in a voice that trembled like a secret finally freed. But I love you. I will never harm you or the children. You and the children are my world. You made this world worth living. The sincerity in his tone broke through the wall Amina had built in her heart. Her breath caught as she searched his face, torn between fear and longing. But all she saw was the man she had once fallen in love with. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the sharpness of her suspicions into something softer. Against her better judgment, Amina let those words seep into her soul like warm rain soaking dry soil. For that fleeting moment, she forgot Mzee Juma's warnings, forgot the graveyard shadows, forgot the hollow sound in his chest. All she knew was that this was the man who had once promised her forever. Chika, she whispered, voice breaking. I don't care what you are. I only know that I love you. He pressed his forehead against hers, a faint smile ghosting across his lips. And in that silence, love, fragile, forbidden, and dangerous, wrapped them both in its cloak. The night became theirs again. Their bodies moved with an intensity they had not shared in years, as though each touch could erase the secrets lingering between them. Amina surrendered herself fully, swept away by desire and the hope that maybe love was enough to bridge the living and the dead. Chika kissed her with a hunger that carried sorrow, as if he knew the moment could be their last. His grip was gentle yet firm, pulling her closer as though he feared she might vanish. And Amina, despite her doubts, clung to him as though letting go would shatter her world. When it was over, they lay entwined, Amina's head on his chest. She strained her ears, praying to hear the steady thump of a heartbeat, but the silence was deafening. Yet wrapped in his arms, she told herself love could silence even the grave. As sleep tugged at her eyes, a thought flickered in her mind. Was this passion real, or was it the spell of a ghost who knew her deepest weakness? But Amina pushed the thought aside, clinging to the sweetness of the moment like a drowning woman clings to driftwood. Tomorrow, she told herself. Tomorrow she would decide what to do. Outside, the wind whistled through the trees, carrying whispers only spirits could understand. The guardian of the grave watched from afar, shaking his head slowly, as if the union he witnessed was both beautiful and doomed. And somewhere in the night, the earth itself seemed to sigh. The following morning, Amina's hands trembled as she held her phone. Sleep had eluded her, replaced by Chika's haunting words and the hollow silence of his chest. She finally dialed Mzee Juma's number, her heart pounding with every ring. When his deep, calm voice came through, Amina wasted no time. She told him everything. Chika's confession, the passion they had shared, and his sudden decision to take the entire family to Nigeria. Her voice cracked as she whispered, Mzee Juma, he said we are leaving soon. For a long moment, silence filled the line. Then Mzee Juma exhaled heavily, as though the weight of his fears had finally been confirmed. Amina, he said slowly, once you step foot in Nigeria with him, there is no going back. You must get ready to face the unthinkable. Amina's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. You must understand, Mzee Juma continued, his tone grave. Nigeria is not just a homecoming for Chika, it is a return to his true roots. Once you follow him there, you may not come back the same. You may not come back at all. Her eyes widened as tears filled them. Mzee Juma, are you saying he will harm me? No, Mzee Juma replied firmly. He loves you, but his world is not yours. Spirits cannot walk both roads forever. Once you go with him, you may never see Chika again, at least not in the flesh. Perhaps only in your dreams, if he wishes. Amina froze, her phone trembling in her grip. The thought of losing him, after everything, stabbed through her chest. She was speechless, unable to utter a word. On the other end, Mzee Juma's voice grew softer but more pressing. Think carefully, Amina. Love is powerful, but it cannot change what he is. Once you go, your life and the children's lives will never be the same again. Her lips parted, but no words came. Tears slipped down her cheeks as silence filled the air. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, to ask why fate had chosen her for such a path, but her voice refused to obey. Mzee Juma broke the silence with one final question. Are you ready to face the truth, Amina? The phone buzzed in her hand, her heart raced, but no sound left her lips. She was utterly speechless, caught between love and terror. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, far away from Tanzania, Ngozi, the younger sister of Chika, was walking to the village market. The sun blazed above, and the chatter of traders filled the air. She balanced a basket on her head when suddenly her steps faltered. Across the road, she caught sight of a tall figure. The gait, the shoulders, even the slight bend in the neck. It was all too familiar. Her heart thudded in her chest. She whispered under her breath, Chika. The man turned briefly, and for a moment their eyes met. Ngozi froze in shock. His face was exactly her brother's. The same piercing eyes, the same smile, though it flickered strangely, almost unnaturally. She dropped her basket, oranges scattering across the dusty road. No, it can't be, she muttered. She had been mourning him, dreaming of him, believing he was gone. Yet here he was, or someone that looked exactly like him. Before she could gather courage to cross the road, the man vanished into the crowd. It was as though the earth had swallowed him whole. Traders shouted around her, children laughed, but Ngozi's eyes darted desperately in every direction. Chika, she cried, ignoring the strange looks from passers-by. But no one answered. The man was gone. Her heart raced. She bent down to gather her scattered goods, hands trembling. If that was really my brother, what was he doing here? She thought. And why did he disappear so suddenly? The dreams of Chika holding children flashed back in her mind. Her mother's warnings echoed in her ears. Ngozi, she whispered to herself, have we been wrong all along? Is my brother truly alive? Or has he become something else? Ngozi's legs could hardly carry her as she rushed home, her basket now half empty. Her heart was pounding louder than her footsteps. The image of the man who looked exactly like her brother refused to leave her mind. The moment she stepped into their compound, she saw her mother seated under the old mango tree, peeling cassava. "Mama," Ngozi called, her voice shaky. Her mother looked up immediately, sensing something was wrong. "Ngozi, what is it? Why are you breathing like someone being chased?" her mother asked, concern written all over her wrinkled face. Ngozi dropped the basket at her mother's feet and grabbed her hand. "Mama, I saw him. I saw Chika at the market today." Her mother froze, the cassava knife slipping from her hand. "Ngozi, don't say that," she whispered, her eyes widening. "We buried your brother. We mourned him. Don't bring back my pain. I swear, Mama." Ngozi cried. It was him. The same face, the same height, the same eyes. He even looked at me. But before I could reach him, he disappeared into the crowd. The old woman's eyes brimmed with tears. "Ngozi, you know I have been dreaming of him, seeing him holding children I've never met. Maybe it was not just a dream after all." Mother and daughter stared at each other in silence, both trembling. The air grew thick, as though unseen eyes were watching them. Finally, the old woman whispered, "If Chika walks among the living again, then something is not right. Spirits don't return without reason. Ngozi, this is only the beginning." Ngozi wiped her tears quickly, her chest still heaving. "Mama, what should we do now? Should we tell the elders? Should we call the pastor?" she asked in fear. Her mother shook her head firmly. "No, Ngozi. If we tell anyone now, they will laugh at us, or worse, they will think we have lost our minds. We must keep this to ourselves until we know the truth." Ngozi swallowed hard. "Then how do we find out, Mama? That man looked exactly like Chika. What if it really was him?" Her mother's eyes shifted toward the direction of the village graveyard. The cassava knife trembled in her hand. "If he has returned, then the truth will be found in the place we buried him. The graveyard holds the answer." Ngozi's heart skipped. "Mama, are you saying we should go there? At night?" she asked, her voice almost breaking. The old woman sighed deeply. "Yes, Ngozi. At night. When the world is quiet and spirits are restless. That is the only way we will know if your brother still lies in his grave, or if he now walks among us." Ngozi clutched her wrapper tightly around her chest. Fear made her body tremble, but curiosity burned even stronger inside her. She wanted to know the truth about her brother. "All right, Mama," she finally whispered. "If this is the only way, then I will go with you. Tonight, we will see with our own eyes." That night, the moon hung low, casting a pale glow over the village. The air was cold and silent, as if even the crickets dared not sing. Ngozi and her mother wrapped themselves in dark shawls and slipped quietly out of the compound. Each step toward the graveyard made Ngozi's legs weaker. Her heart pounded in her chest like a talking drum. "Mama, are you sure about this?" she whispered. But her mother only tightened her grip on her hand. When they reached the iron gate of the graveyard, the wind howled, pushing it back and forth with a sharp creak. The sound echoed in the night, chilling Ngozi's spine. They stopped at the spot where Chika had been buried. The mound was still there, covered with weeds and dried leaves. For a moment, both of them just stared at it in silence. Ngozi's mother bent down, her trembling fingers brushing the earth. She murmured a short prayer, her voice low and shaky. Then she turned to Ngozi. "If his body is no longer here, then it means what you saw in the market was real." Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the graveyard, carrying with it a faint whisper. Ngozi froze. She could swear she heard her brother's voice saying, "Ngozi." Her mother gasped, her eyes widening in fear. "Did you hear that?" she asked. Ngozi could only nod, her whole body shaking. The ground beneath the grave seemed to tremble slightly, as though something or someone was stirring beneath. Both women staggered backward, clutching each other tightly. "Mama," Ngozi cried. "What if he comes out? What if he is no longer resting?" Her voice cracked with terror. Her mother's face was pale as she whispered, "Then, my daughter, it means Chika is walking this earth again, not as a man, but as something far more terrifying." As the two women clutched each other in fear, the earth at Chika's grave shifted once more. This time, they both saw it clearly, The soil moved as though someone underneath was breathing. Ngozi's heart nearly leapt out of her chest. "Mama, we have to run," she cried, tugging her mother's hand. But her mother stood rooted, her eyes fixed on the trembling ground. A faint glow began to rise from the grave. It wasn't fire, but something strange and otherworldly, a light that seemed alive, swirling in shades of blue and green. Within the glow, a shadowy figure began to form. It was tall, broad-shouldered, and unmistakably familiar. Both women gasped in horror and disbelief. "Mama," Ngozi whispered, her lips trembling. "It's him, it's Chika." But the figure didn't step out fully. It lingered halfway, as though trapped between two worlds. Its face was partly clear, partly blurred, and when it turned toward them, they both stumbled back. The voice came again, louder this time. "Ngozi, Mama," it echoed through the graveyard, chilling them to the bone. Ngozi covered her ears, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No, this can't be real. We buried you. You're gone," she screamed. The figure raised one hand slowly, pointing toward the horizon, as though sending them a warning. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, the glow flickered and the grave grew still again. The silence that followed was deafening. Ngozi's mother clutched her chest, whispering shakily, "Ngozi, this is no longer just a dream. Your brother is caught between life and death, and soon, we must decide what to do." Ngozi and Amara sat quietly in the parlor, their eyes fixed on each other, but neither of them could utter a word. The silence weighed heavily in the room, like a thick fog that refused to clear. The man Ngozi saw at the market looked too much like Chika. The same broad shoulders, the same calm eyes, the same walk. "Amara," Ngozi finally whispered, her voice trembling. "Is it possible that Chika is alive?" She clasped her hands tightly as if trying to stop them from shaking. Amara looked down at the floor, her heart pounding. Or maybe it's his spirit walking among us. You know what the elders always say. When a person dies with unfinished business, their soul lingers between the land of the living and the land of the dead. Ngozi swallowed hard. Her eyes darted to the window, half expecting to see that same figure standing outside, watching them. "But what if he's in hell, struggling to find his way back?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Amara shook her head slowly. "I don't know, Ngozi. I really don't know. But one thing is certain, if he truly is alive, then someone has been lying to us all these years. And if he's dead..." Her voice trailed off, and she hugged herself tightly, as though a cold wind had just passed through her. They both sat back, staring at the flickering lantern light, the question burning in their minds. Is Chika alive, or is he a restless soul bound to torment them forever? The following morning, as Amara, Chika's mother, made her way to the market, a strange prophet suddenly appeared before her. His robe was dusty, his eyes glowing faintly as he raised his staff and said in a deep voice, "Old woman, whatever you thought you have lost is coming back in many ways." Amara froze on the path, her basket nearly slipping from her hand. She frowned, staring at the prophet. "What do you mean by that? Speak clearly," she demanded, her voice shaking. But the prophet only smiled faintly, his eyes unreadable. Before she could ask another question, the man turned and slowly disappeared into the crowd, leaving her with his cryptic words. Amara's heart pounded as she whispered to herself, "Coming back in many ways?" What could that mean? That evening, she returned home restless. She gathered Ngozi and some family members and told them what the prophet had said. Ngozi held her chin with trembling fingers. "Mama, could it be that he was talking about brother Chika?" Amara shook her head fiercely. No, don't tie his words to Chika. If you do, you may invite things you cannot understand." But still, her voice broke, and she turned away, hiding the fear in her eyes. Meanwhile, Amina sat by the window, staring at Chika as he packed their bags for the trip to Nigeria. Her mind replayed Mzee Juma's warning. Once you go to Nigeria, there is no going back. She held her children close, but her heart thudded with dread. That night, she couldn't sleep. She wondered if she should run away with the children before Chika made the journey. Yet, a part of her longed to know the truth about the man she loved, the ghost who claimed he would never harm her. Just as Chika finished packing their bags, there was a sudden knock on the door. Amina froze, her heart racing. Who could it be at this hour? She whispered, clutching her children close. Chika opened the door, and standing there was a tall, elderly woman dressed in flowing white garments, her eyes sharp and piercing. She introduced herself as Mama Fadila, a spiritual midwife known in the town for helping families in crisis. Without waiting to be invited, Mama Fadila stepped inside, her staff tapping the floor with each step. She looked directly at Amina, then at Chika, and said in a voice that made the walls tremble,
Chika, you cannot leave Tanzania for now because you have unfinished business you need to resolve before you go.
You cannot travel yet. There is something unfinished in this land that must be resolved before you leave. Amina's blood ran cold. She turned to Chika, but he avoided her gaze. What does she mean by unfinished business? Amina asked, her voice unsteady. Mama Fadila raised her staff, pointing at Chika. The spirits of this soil are not done with him. If he dares to leave now, the journey to Nigeria will bring calamity not only to him, but to everyone with him. Chika clenched his jaw, visibly shaken. He had faced spirits, guardians, and even the wrath of the grave. But Mama Fadila's words pierced deeper than anything he had heard before. For the first time, Amina saw fear in his eyes. The children began to cry softly, sensing the tension in the room. Amina hugged them tightly while her mind raced. Was Mama Fadila here to save them, or was she another obstacle sent to confuse her? Chika finally spoke, his voice low and hoarse. Mama Fadila, what do you want from me? The woman's lips curled into a faint smile. I want nothing, but the spirits demand that you return something you took from this land before you step foot in Nigeria. Amina's eyes darted between Mama Fadila and Chika. Something inside her whispered that this old woman had come for her sake, not for Chika's. Still, she stayed quiet, letting the scene unfold. Mama Fadila shifted her piercing gaze from Chika to Amina. Her expression softened as though she could see the burden Amina had been carrying in silence. Daughter, she said gently, you have questions in your heart that no man has been able to answer. The spirits have allowed me to help you see clearly. Chika stiffened. Enough of this riddles, he barked. We have a journey to prepare for. Whatever debt the spirits speak of, I will handle it. But Mama Fadila raised her staff and struck the ground once. The sound echoed through the house like a thunderclap. No, Chika, you cannot silence the truth this time. Your wife must know what lies ahead before she follows you into darkness. Amina's heart pounded. She felt both fear and relief. Finally, someone brave enough to stand against Chika's shadows. She whispered, Mama Fadila, what must I know? The old woman leaned closer, her voice low yet steady. There are two worlds fighting over your husband's soul. One is pulling him back to Nigeria. The other is trying to keep him here. And you, my daughter, stand at the center of it all. If you choose wrong, you will lose not only your husband, but your children as well. Chika's eyes flared with anger, but for the first time, Amina saw him hesitate before speaking. Mama Fadila's words had struck something deep. He knew she was telling the truth. Mama Fadila turned slowly, her eyes locking with Amina's as though she could see into her very soul. Daughter, before you walk into this storm, you must know who you married. Amina's breath caught. Her lips trembled as she asked, Who is Chika? Mama Fadila lowered her staff and spoke in a voice heavy with sorrow. Your husband is not merely a ghost. He is the spirit of a man who died violently many years ago in Nigeria. His blood cried for peace, but instead, he was bound to serve between worlds. He has been walking among the living, carrying a curse he can never truly escape. Amina's hands shook as she grabbed the edge of her wrapper. Her chest tightened. You mean, I have been married to a man who is already dead? Chika's face darkened, his jaw tightening. He stepped forward, but Mama Fadila struck her staff to the ground again. Stay back. You have hidden the truth from her for too long. Tonight she must know. Then Mama Fadila turned back to Amina and added in a trembling tone, and there is more. He did not come to you by chance. You are the link, the one chosen to break or seal his curse. Without you, his journey to Nigeria will end in eternal damnation. With you, it may end in freedom, but at a cost you may not be ready to pay. Amina's heart thundered in her chest. The room spun. Was she meant to save him, or would he drag her and her children into his doom? She swallowed hard, whispering, What must I do? Mama Fadila looked at her with pity and grave wisdom. That, my daughter, is the choice only you can make. But remember this, love for a ghost is love with fire. It warms you today, but it burns everything tomorrow. Amina sat frozen, her mind torn between fear and love. Chika stood at a distance, his ghostly presence cloaked in silence, while Mama Fadila's words echoed like thunder in her ears. Love for a ghost is love with fire. Her heart beat, so loudly she could almost hear it. Was she truly destined to save Chika, or was she only being pulled into a darkness that could consume her and her children forever? She glanced at Chika one last time, tears glistening in her eyes. Somewhere deep inside, she still loved him, yet a shadow of doubt gnawed at her soul. My people, part 3 ends here. Now the big question is, should Amina follow Chika to Nigeria despite knowing the terrible truth? Or should she protect her children and walk away from him forever? Drop your opinion in the comment section, because part 4 will reveal what happens next.